Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw. Now, in this photo, you have already made reference to it. It's not really a photograph. It's an illustration. And what it is on the left is you can see the kind of the outline in white lines of the Pacific with Japan and China on the left, and then you could see the north with Russia, and then the sort of the Alaska, and then the west coast going down to California and Mexico on the right, and the little dots of islands right in the center-ish. And what we see is a kind of so it's in black and white. So that's the main field is black, and across it is this really quite beautiful rainbowish spectrum going from dark blue on the left, sort of really reaching out towards Japan, going into greens and yellows, and then red hitting on the right, which would be around, I guess, Oregon, Seattle, British Columbia. So please interpret, you had started talking about it earlier, and this is from the University of Hawaii. So what is this? What is the significance of this illustration? Why you made reference that this was going back to the tsunami, and yet you don't actually see a presence in Japan specifically, even though you can see that the trajectory must have started around Japan. So how do we understand this graphic?
Probably I mentioned already that this event, tsunami in Japan, helped us to understand how different objects move differently in the ocean. Mm-hmm. And that's shown on this image. It's purely based on our modeling data, mm-hmm. our modeling program. And whatever you see the spectrum from blue all the way to red, that's the scale of we call it windages. So it means how much is the effect of wind on movement of the trajectory of this particular piece of debris. So whenever you have, for instance, blue, you see it is closer to the Japan than the red one.
Yeah.
And it's because it's moving with the currents that are generally slower than the wind. And if you're going to go through the rainbow, going up to the green, yellow, and red, you see the red is far ahead on the east or hitting the coast of North America.
Yeah.
And of course, this is all based on our modeling algorithms and our modeling program.
Mm-hmm.
But again, we are coming back to the real life. We use the reports from coastline of various types of debris to validate our model.
Right.
So it's not only just because anybody can do any model, and then the question is, what does it mean?
Right.
How does it relate to the actual world? And we use those reports mostly from coastline because those are the most easily obtainable.
Yeah.
And more people go to beach than go in the middle of garbage patch. However, coming back to the cleaning efforts again, with reports from those cleaning efforts about the concentration, how many nets, what is the total weight were collected in different areas. Again, we can go back to our modeling data and we can calibrate our simulation to reflect, to represent the reality. So it's kind of like a feedback. We provide the scientific information to real people or real world, and vice versa. We get a real feedback, real data back from the field because you need some ground truthing in any modeling.
For sure.
And actually, that gave us a confidence that whatever we did, with some kind of little small adjustments, more or less, we can get the overall picture regarding the marine debris in the North Pacific.
Okay, so only because I'm a dummy and I don't know this, but okay, so if I imagine the water column, and that's, let's say, 1 kilometer thick, with the surface going all the way down to about 1 kilometer, and you have debris coming in, and we'll say we're only paying attention to organic compound plastics, right? From styrofoam to hard plastics, or all into the whole range of plastics. How much of the analysis that you make, how much is water depth a problem? So, for example, is the plastic essentially congregating or concentrating at the surface, or is it pretty much across the whole depth of the water column?
Well, so far we have not included that into our modeling effort. However, we know that there is a variability of plastic concentration in the water column, and it's not static, it's dynamic. As you can imagine, with increased wind, you have increased mixing, and certain type of marine debris, specifically the micro, the very small pieces, they will get mixed very deeply. In some cases, there are reports 100 meter or more.
Okay.
That's the mixing. However, you can imagine even taking the observation from the surface is not that simple task.
No, for sure.
And now you add another dimension, so we have even less data, actual data from the water column. So this is still one area of research which is open, and we need to get more data on that.
Of course.
Well, but speaking about those big, the micro, those huge fishing nets and lines, they are not as sensitive to mixing. Of course, there are some kind of variation, but you can imagine it's not so easy to put a huge bulk of fishing nets to 100 meters depth. Might take it's not that easy. But a small piece of speck of plastic, it mixes very easily, very quickly. But we know that it exists. We kind of recognize this effect. However, to quantify it, we still do not have enough observation. We don't have enough data.
Right. So how large is the team that you're working with in Hawaii?
Okay, well, I'm glad that you asked. Team in Hawaii, I'm working with my colleague Nikolai Maximenko is the only one from Hawaii, but everybody else is from somewhere else.
Okay.
We have kind of a big, diverse team that encompasses physical oceanography, the wind, atmosphere, the biology, conservation. So I would like to acknowledge those as well.
Sure.
Mary Crowley from Ocean Voyaging Institute. We have Rebecca Helm from University of North Carolina, people from Smithsonian Institute, Sheila Zabin, we have Lindsay Harem, we have biologists from Williams College, James Carlton, we have the two scientists from Canada, both are from the Fisheries and Oceans Canada.
Yeah.
It's the Cindy Wright and Catherine Murray. Of course, we have scientists doing the oceanography, like Andrei Cherbina, he's from University of Washington. Luca Centurioni, he's expert on drifting buoys. So there are many people.
I mean, we can't go through everyone, but would you say that there's this is an effort of, say, 100 people, of 1,000 people, of...
I would say maybe about 10.
Okay.
Well, because each of that other person might have reached somewhere else. Like for instance, Mary Crowley got in touch with Doug Woodring, and he got in touch with you, and now we are in touch. So it's kind of...
Yeah, it's a network. It's a network,
yes.
So how do we inspire somebody else, right? Like how do we kind of get people to listen to this passively, but then take it to the next step, which says, well, you know what? So for example, for a lot of people, and because of the pandemic, it's made them more introspective. And for a lot of people, they're like, okay, maybe my time is limited and I do need to focus on something that I care about. And I do care about climate, or I do care about the oceans, or I do care about biodiversity. There's so much to care about. So what would you suggest? Like your journey, your road, which went from the Czech Republic to Hawaii, sounds like a fairy tale. It sounds, and I realize when you live it, It's life. It's just life. But from somebody from the outside, it's kind of like, wow, this guy lives in Hawaii. Like that's amazing. So what kind of advice could you give somebody who is 20 years old, or 30 years old, 40, or even 50 years old, or 60 years old, who wants to reinvent themselves in that direction? What could you give any advice?
Well, it's a good question. There could be a short answer or long answer. If I take the step on the short one regarding the marine debris and marine life, probably the best motivation, but at least for me, would be if the people would see it on their own eyes. Picture is, it's okay, but today, as probably mentioned at the beginning of this podcast, today we are bombarded by hundreds and hundreds of thousands of images. And now people are not very sensitive to whatever the message is. But if you see it in your own eye, what's actually happening, it's probably a much stronger impact.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is kind of difficult because many people, they live inland, and getting into the ocean to see it it's considerable effort. It's not so simple. Maybe we can work with some educators to create some, not virtual, but because I said virtual is not doesn't have that impact as the real.
As a real experience.
Kind of exhibit. And I think some people, they already did it. They are trying or leaning in that direction to include exhibit on marine debris in various museums. And I believe there was a museum somewhere in Switzerland. They actually ordered and paid for shipment of derelict fishing gear from Hawaii to Switzerland.
Wow. Yeah, that makes sense.
However, you probably expected more philosophical answer to this question. Well, it's overarching is not, marine debris one, essentially the question is, what should I do with the rest of my life?
Yeah.
What would be the meaning? Yeah. Well, and again, there's a short and long answer. In a short answer, I would say take care of or help your neighbor.
Okay. Nice.
And it could be help your neighbor as a person, or you can help all people collectively by helping the nature or keeping ocean clean or taking care of climate or anything else. So in which indirectly we are helping everybody else or everybody on this planet.
Jan, perfect. Thank you very much. It's an hour that goes by so fast. It's amazing.
Well, that's because of you. You make it so easy.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm always terrified to talk 1 hour, so I have nothing to talk about 1 hour. But
you just did it. So you just did it without even trying. Jan, how about I really hope one day I can come and meet you in your office, and you can explain to me and you can show me your life in Hawaii. Because like I say, from the outside looking in, it looks incredible.
Well, that's always people think the grass is greener on the other side of the fence.
Yeah. The ocean is bluer on the other side of the boat. You're right.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay.
Okay. Have a great evening. Have a great day. Okay. Bye.
Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw. So is life really a gift? Really? Can you make every second count? That's the whole point of the podcast. So if you like what you've seen and you're inspired, because that really is my mission, then please give it a like, subscribe, and share.
Shooting it raw?
Yes, shooting it raw.